Ladies and gentlemen, if it is Tuesday, then you know it is Random Topics Tuesday, and it is the hottest live stream right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, everywhere you want to think of. You are listening to Gavin Reshaw Presents, and tonight we have a very special guest in Mr. Garland Brown. Garland is a Prince aficionado, and you see at the bottom of our screen in the left hand corner, the topic is Prince 5 years later. The month of April marks the 50th year anniversary of the passing of one Prince Rogers Nelson, arguably one of the greatest musicians, songwriters, uh, artists. You won't name anything on it. This man did it. He did it all. And we're going to be talking about, first and foremost, that 60 Minutes interview. I want to know if Garland knows about that. I can't play the interview, obviously, for copyright reasons. But this new album that Prince has, that from his unreleased, from his vault, the vault that they've called it, unreleased music. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about his life, his death, the mysterious circumstances around it. Garland has been on the show previously to talk about these things, so we will hold no punches in talking about a man known all over the world as the artist. So sit back, relax, grab your cup of water, a beer, and some popcorn. We're about to get ready because right now it is Hot Random Topics with Gavin Richard only on channel Gboot 2786 and on Facebook, on Twitter, through via Periscope, and my other YouTube channel, Gavin Richard. This was a double header today, of course, dealing with the aftermath of George Floyd's, Derek Chauvin trial, where he was convicted of murder for George Floyd. And of course, one of my favorite Prince songs is a new song he released before he passed, was called Baltimore, that he did with Three Eyed Child. That was his new band that formed before he passed. Now, unfortunately, because of copyright issues, I can't play that. So we'll just do our regular intro music and think of the purple one. If you'd like to donate to this channel, please hit the Cash App, hit the Google Pay, and hit the PayPal. Gavin.grich1@gmail.com. If you'd like to see me make new videos, I'd ask you to contribute to the Cash App at Gavin Richard Esquire. This is Gavin Richard Presents only on channel GG2786 and Gavin Richard on Facebook and on Periscope via Gavin Rich 2786. We are live. We are live. And I'm coming at you with 5. All right, we're back. We're live. And I'm doing a double header, of course. Just coming back from the aftermath of the Derek Chauvin trial. I did a double header. Of course, this was for breaking news. And we have on a friend to the show, Garland. Garland, you got some background noise going on. If you can try and, I don't know if you can mute it or go somewhere secluded if you can. But Garland,
What
you
is
there?
Yes, can you still hear?
I can hear you. I can't see you. I guess you might be out.
Yeah, I am. I tried to go to the car because I thought I could get a better reception from the car. I forgot my avatar up as well. So
We'll make
George
do.
George Floyd, George Floyd with very interesting verdict this evening.
Uh, well, yeah, it is. It's not interest. If you understand the law, you understand why they did it. But
Oh yeah.
The the case is far from over.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sentencing phase. It's 8 weeks out. Remember what the judge even said about Maxine Waters when she opened her mouth,
Mm-hmm.
about that. He might use that as mitigating circumstances. But then again, we got to focus on what the evidence was. He had his knee on this man's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, never rendered aid, never performed CPR. Uh, it showed lack of disdain and lack of compassion. As the prosecutor said, they talked about George Floyd's heart being too big, but Derek Chauvin's heart was too small. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that also goes for his fellow police officers who have not been tried yet. So that's going to be interesting when their cases go to trial as well. But, there have been situations, although rare, where white men have killed black men and have been punished. Of course, the main one is out in Texas with James Byrd,
Right.
Jasper, Texas. That was the first time the second time only in history where white men were actually put to death for the murder of a black man. The first time
Mm-hmm.
was over a white man killing the slave of a slave owner, and
Mm-hmm.
because he destroyed that man's property is why the death penalty. That was the only time in Texas history. So it's not something people are celebrating and so forth, but like I say, it's not over with yet.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right. But you were watching the verdict today. Were you at work, or how did you find out about it?
Well, I have been given 10 days of COVID leave to take care of my wife, who has come
Uh,
down with COVID. And so I was at home, and very interestingly enough, she eventually came around, and after the verdict, she's been up ever since, and looks like she's doing a lot better than she was this morning. So um, maybe that was a positive sign. So I'm taking it as such right now. But yeah, I was at home when I saw the verdict. I'm we were testing. If no one is familiar, I don't know how they do it in Louisiana, but um, we have started our testing phase as far as school is concerned, and we are basically, because of the COVID situation, and we have had almost 2 weeks straight of testing, and it's been social distance. So kids who are not in school right now testing do not have to come; they have to be remote. So we have not had a full house of people, but I really want to get back to my classroom so we can discuss the Floyd trial and try to get perspective from kids, because they can give you a very interesting perspective on a lot of things that you think that they're not listening to.
Almost definitely, kids. I mean, they got their ears to really the internet. That's all they getting stuff from, man. And what they see on television, what they're seeing. I mean, what they're seeing on their phones. Matter of fact, I saw another police shooting, two actually that occurred. One in Knox, Tennessee. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Thompson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and my understanding, that school where he's at, they've actually had five killings and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. And it's under mysterious circumstances because now they're saying, they said he had a gun, but they're saying the gun that hit the officer, the bullet that hit didn't come from his gun. I
Right.
saw the white mama, the mother of the girlfriend, talking about how sorry she was because she called 911 on him, and that's how he ended up, tragically dying. But this is the type of stuff we see all the time. When you call 911, you're essentially making a death sentence on a black man. Police are not trained when they have their weapons on them. Those are not weapons. Those are not toys. They're not trained to maim someone. They're trained to take out the threat.
Right.
They're trained to eliminate the threat. That's even when I took my concealed carry classes here in Louisiana. If they
Mm-hmm.
talk about home invasions and things like that you encounter, the first thing they tell you is to eliminate the threat.
Mm-hmm.
Eliminate. What does that mean? Get rid of them,
Mm-hmm.
not maim them. So they don't look at black men as children or as human beings. They don't look at they don't look at our kids like they look at their kids. And that white
Mm-hmm.
that white girl woman who called the police on, I mean, I seen her daughter and I seen the other little baby that was with her. They looked like they were mixed. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she might have dated a black man or whatever, but I mean, if anything, she should know better. But I mean, I understand. And I understand. There was some type of domestic situation with her and the daughter, but with her and the boyfriend, because the boyfriend, the young man that was killed, they dated. So it's hard to keep kids away, especially if they go to the same school,
Mm-hmm.
because they're young. They're gonna do stupid stuff. Kids like I was, when people do stupid things, children do stupid things, but 17 years old is too young to be dead. And then I saw a baby recently in Ohio that got shot by the police, a 15-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So this stuff, I this stuff has always been going on. We just have cameras now, and everybody can see it. But I mean, I was
Well,
sitting.
I'm gonna say something that's contrary here for a second. Um, teaching school and teaching school in the last 5, 10 years, it's a big difference with kids. And it used to be once upon a time that I could kind of intercede. And I don't know if I've gotten old or what the deal is, but I can't. Kids don't respond to um, commands like they used to. Um, and especially when you if you I don't know if it's because I'm older or what, but we've had in the last couple of years, and we've had a pretty tumultuous last couple of years here where I live. But in the last couple of years, it's very difficult to say, hey man, if you say, for instance, you got kids out of pocket at school, look, hey, y'all get where y'all supposed to be going. And they'll turn
Right.
around and look at you like you didn't say anything. Now, I'm a black man, you're a black man, black kid. When I was coming up in high school 30 years ago, the black teachers, if they told us something, we did it quicker
Yeah.
because they knew our mamas and daddies. But these folks, I don't get them anymore. And it's like, what are you going to do when you get into an encounter with the police and they tell you to do something and you don't do it? But then that argument falls when we do have people to do it and they get killed. So it's, I could see if they were complying, but you got folk complying and getting killed. So it's one of those things, man. I don't. It goes back to what you just said. We are not looked at as human beings, and that's where the problem comes in. Now, our job is going out and relaying this to kids to where they can understand, hey, they're not looking at you like you're human.
Right.
Try to use some defensive tactics as far as verbal judo to get out of these situations instead of escalating.
Right.
And that's a big thing that's going to have to come down now, um, because I don't believe we could comply. We can fight. We still gonna wind up getting killed. It's a
Well,
damn
I mean,
situation.
compliance is not a defense. Uh,
Right.
Compliance is not a defense for you from a white supremacist.
Right.
Complying doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, damn, Philando Castile was complying and he was
Yes.
killed.
Yes.
Trayvon Martin, I mean, not Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice wasn't given a chance to comply.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, at any moment, you can be taken out just like that.
And
So
I'm
that's
gonna tell you
why
something else.
you got to
I'm
have
gonna,
your head on a swivel.
you're a native of Louisiana. I'm a native of Tennessee. I'm gonna say something. Hope I don't make anybody mad, but the Midwest is damn near as bad as the South was 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's saying anything about that. The South is known for racism. Oh, they're racist down South. But I'm meeting some people from the Midwest, man. Those folks caused me to shake my head.
Well, I mean, look, I'm very familiar with the history of the Midwest. Tennessee's still part of the South, as you are uh, there, but I'm familiar and heard stories about like Indianapolis, how they had planned meetings there in Indiana and so
Oh
forth.
yeah,
That has a prevalence in those areas. So I'm very well have heard those stories. Even out west, a lot of black people had the idea of going out to California.
yes,
Things would be better. There's a TV show on Amazon called Them that's
yes,
produced by Lena Wraith. I don't really like the woman because she pushes that muffin tip, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
Carpet bunch of it, but and that's not even why. I just think I just think her shows suck. Uh, but nevertheless, I started watching it, and it's kind of confusing. But the stuff that Black people went through, even
Hmm.
what they call a great migration north and westbound, that's the stuff that we continue to deal with. Uh, we always have the idea that these states that are in the north are pretty liberal. Look, uh, they can be liberal for other groups, but not for you.
Right.
Yeah,
So
they
just because you liberal don't stop you from being racist. A lot
no.
of folks
I
miss
mean,
that.
look at I think Bill Maher's pretty liberal, but Bill Maher, as of late, he's been showing flat out he doesn't care about blacks.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I never,
He's been like that.
yeah, I stopped watching his crap a long time ago.
Yeah, he's been like that.
I stopped watching his stuff for a while, and this thing he was talking about cancel culture. Hell, they were canceling. He was canceling Bill Cosby. He was trying to cancel
Right.
O.J. Simpson. So now you getting a piece of it. You and Sharon Osbourne, y'all were part of this crap. So you know that's that's on you. Good. You get a
Yeah,
taste.
I don't believe in that anyway because it's a slippery slope. We want to cancel someone who disagrees with us, but then when the shoe is on the other foot, then we want to kind of give people slack. And I think you can't. I mean, eventually you're gonna cancel everybody. Everybody's gonna get canceled. So some of these people, some of the stuff, that these talk shows, I have no use for them because it's always somebody being made out to be a villain, and you only getting 30-second
It's
sound
a
bite of
trap.
what's going on.
It's a
Um,
trap.
right.
Uh,
They gabbing this even ESPN in the sports. You know,
Stephen Coons. Yeah, I got off of it. I got off of them. I mean, look, I've like this thing that's going on with Deshaun Watson and how they talk about it. They always assert something themselves like they're attorneys and they know better, or they know. Like Stephen A. Smith tries to come off like he's the guru of black intellect in the sports
yeah,
world when he ain't nothing but another bootlick. Uh, this is a guy that was licking, that was bucking and breaking, was bucking and bowing when he hurt Missy's feelings. Missy, Miss Michelle Beadle, and she came at him over the comments he made with Ray Rice, and I understood what he was saying, but yeah, those guys are a bunch of bootlicks, man. I don't even care for them. So I stopped watching that. I even stopped watching Shannon Sharp's Undisputed. I just these who cares what they say? This is
yeah,
my talk show. That's why I created this. So
right, right,
I'm talking about this stuff. We going for it. Let's come on with it. So I can form my own sports channel. I could do my own talk show. That's the
right.
purpose of me having this discussion and talking about this stuff, man. But a lot of these guys, yeah, they're airheads. You saw how I mean, look, you saw what Julie Chen had to leave the talk because her husband got caught with his pants down, literally.
Right, right.
And she was the one complaining about Camille Cosby defending Bill and all this stuff. She defended her husband, so she had to leave with egg on her face. Be gone.
And
Be
you
gone,
know the whole thing is these people are, you know, they're sickening, and it goes a long way. You know, they started with Michael. They tried to start this stuff up, you know, a long time ago. And when it came down to Bill Cosby and you know what was going on with Mr. Cosby, and you know it became a witch hunt, and we started judging him based upon your moral microscope, and it's none of our business. It's none of my business what Bill Cosby and Camille Cosby had going on. He was still married to his wife. He treated his wife with respect. Whatever he did behind the scenes or whatever, that's none of my business. That's the way I look at it. But
but I think
society, you know, tried to come out, and I think, and also I'm gonna tell you something else I've been thinking about, Gavin, and I haven't been on around any of the other folk that you know have come out and defended Cosby. I haven't heard any of their work lately, but you know, one of the things I think that happened to Mr. Cosby was also they were targeting and trying to get back around to get in Hugh Hefner, and he just happened to leave the planet before they could really get into him. And I think that was you know, a lot of that was a backdoor way of trying to get at Hugh Hefner as well, because they have been after him for years too.
well, Hugh. Well, I look. They could have gotten Hugh Hefner a long time ago. Hugh Hefner. I mean, they were girls. I mean, the man was in his 80s and was dating women about 19, 20 years old. And I
Yeah,
actually had a girl, some one of his female girl, well, one of his girlfriends actually, his female cohorts actually wrote a book talking about how he paid for her plastic surgery and made her do all of these things, but she was still living with him. She was still having
right.
sex with him. I looked at the Cosby thing is like this. This is how I interpret it. He's no different than what he was doing, and it's not right morally because yes, it's adultery, but it was no different than Frank Sinatra,
Yep,
Sammy Davis Jr., Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, hell, John F. Kennedy,
right. All of them,
Bill Clinton, all of them had mistresses.
all of them did. Every one of them.
If you're a powerful individual, a powerful man like that who is has influence all over the world, girls will known all over the world. Women will throw themselves at you when
Yeah,
you're out on the road, as comedians are, because we're nomadic people. That's how you make your money. That those things happen. Does it make it right? No, but
it happens.
it happens. And I think Camille, being who she was, she understood it. But the other thing side of it too is she's a married woman with no prenup.
And
So
I have mad respect for her.
almost definitely.
You know, I have mad respect for her, and
And they have children together too. So
exactly.
that's probably one reason she's old school. Just like I saw Nat King. I know we got to get to the topic in a second.
Yeah.
I know that I was watching a documentary of some sorts, or I think it was Nightline, on Nat
Hmm.
King Cole, and his wife Maria talked about an affair that he had with this white woman from one of his last movies called Cat Ballou.
Hmm.
Villa Hutton. Villa Hutton is a
Hmm.
sweet woman, and they asked her about it, like, how did you feel? She said, my husband was my husband. He was still my husband at the end of the
Hmm.
day. And when he was sick, she took care of him. That's what they did.
Right, right, right. And she got what he had when he left me.
Yeah. And I mean, their daughter was a world, a known performer, a worldwide performer, and Natalie Cole, may she rest in peace. May
Hmm.
all rest in peace, man. That's another thing too. We're talking about Prince, but I'm looking at all of these artists. I'm thinking about all of these artists who have passed away that are no longer here, and it's affected the game greatly because Prince is gone, Michael's gone,
Yeah.
Aretha is gone, Natalie Cole
Hmm.
is gone, Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire, Ray
Hmm.
Charles. There's, there's a void, and
A
a
big.
huge void. Now I want to talk about Prince. It's 5 years later. Of course, he died back in April of 2016. I think it was April 21st, if I'm not mistaken. It was a little
Yes,
earlier.
sir.
Okay, April 21st. So we're talking about Prince 5 years later. So we're almost at that anniversary mark, man. Garland, does it feel like 5 years to you? Because it doesn't to me, man.
Um, no, it doesn't. I can distinctly remember what I was doing 5 years ago and how I found out. It was one of the most dramatic moments in my life. Um, as most, if you don't know what I do, I teach in a high school, and I had been teaching in that high school at that time for 21 years. And if you teach in a place for a long period of time, you get to be known for certain things. And a lot of the kids who went to school at 21 years, I had started teaching the children of former students. And one of the things I'm known for, Mr. Brown is a big Prince fan, and everyone that knows me knows that it's two things that I'm diehard over. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers and Prince. And I'm teaching. Um, it was a year that a lot of turmoil was taking place. We were building a new school. I didn't have a classroom, and I was in the main building of the school. And about lunchtime, and we went to the second lunch of the day, which started around 11:30. Um, Around 11:45, there were a group of teachers that ate lunch together, and then we would go back to our classrooms. And my phone had died that day, and I had it charging on the charger. And uh, a kid comes up to me and said, "Hey, I come to see how you were doing." And I said, "What you mean?" He said, "You hadn't heard the news yet." And I said, "No, I hadn't." And he said, "They just found Prince dead." And it was it was a shock, but it wasn't a shock. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. It was a shock, but it wasn't a shock. And I said, "No, I'm okay." I said, "I hadn't heard that. Let me go find out what's going on." And when I had gotten to my phone, I had missed 21 phone calls, and I had multiple messages on Facebook. Folks who hit my Twitter page. Um, it was a lot of I was just like, whoa, what's going on? And one of my former students who I taught in the 90s when I first started teaching, he's a huge Prince fan, and he's a musician, and he lives now in Detroit, and he knows former Prince band members, and I know these people. And he was really, really, really in a bad shape. He was in a worse shape than I was. He had gotten to know Prince. He had introduced me online to him, and some of Prince's proteges, and all of these people are like a big family, and I was introduced into that world, and that's one of the ways that I got to know Prince and got to know him online. Never had a chance. I've met Prince in person, but we never had a sit down conversation. Um, I've met him in person, bumped into him. He was in Nashville in 2000 at Christmas of, was it 1999 too? It was around Christmas.
It'd be convenient if it was 1999.
Yeah, it was around the time of the Rave album. That there was some circumstances about the Rave album. which that was going to be his big comeback album. And Arista Records, he signed with Clive Davis and Arista fired Clive Davis after he signed Prince because Prince had been blacklisted, and Prince was told by um, L.A. Reid, and L.A. Reid and Prince had a rivalry over a young lady, and I'm not gonna go into detail about who she was, but everybody would know who she was because she was in a very famous group, R&B group. But anyway, they had a rivalry going, and L.A. Reid told Prince he was gonna make sure that he would never have a hit record again. And Prince got up and walked out of the office and farted on the way out. And that's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know anything about behind the scenes. But Prince, man, the last um the last probably 10 years that Prince had lived, he had kind of regained his standing in the music world. And I'm very, very glad that he was able to get back his standing. Um, so his legacy would be in like we know it. But
Yeah.
after that kid told me that Prince was dead, 11:45, the bell rang at 11:50, and I was met by about 200 kids from the school that had come to my classroom, and they were like, "We come to see how you were doing." And then the principal comes around the corner, and I'm like, "Hold on, I'm okay. Hadn't seen anything. I don't know anything about what's going on, but I'm okay." And my son was in school, and my son is a real quiet kid. He's not like his dad and mama, but he's the quiet side of us. And my son, at the end of the day, he came and he said, he's got a deep voice. He said, "Dad, did you hear about the news?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You cool?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm cool." I said, "We good." And he started listening to Prince after Prince died, which is really amazing. But yeah, it was a dramatic day, and the more detail I got of it, I started to I got involved with a group of people who told me what happened. And the more that we started to hear about what happened, the more we started getting concerned that this was not what it seemed to be. Um, and lo and behold, our fears were realized. Now,
Yeah.
to the audience, you mentioned the song Baltimore.
I did.
The song is on Prince's last album that he
Right.
released Alive, which was called Hit and Run Part 2. Um,
Right.
Prince had two albums that were released about 6 months apart. It was Hit and Run Part 1, it was Hit and Run Part 2. And to the Prince community, and I'm talking about folks, some people say that they're a fan of Prince. That's cool. And then you've got people who are super fans of Prince. Then you have people who are up even on a higher plateau, which are, it's I don't want to call them fanatics, but these people are they kind of make me they teach me stuff about Prince. And those folk right there, it got to be almost like a civil war, so to speak, in the community, because a lot of these people were accepting of the fact of this drug addicted rock star narrative that they started coming out with. Um, when it became known that Prince overdosed, oh yeah, he's been using drugs for years and blah blah blah. And one of the lawyers that represented Prince's siblings when they tried to sue him over the house that Prince owned that he let his daddy stay in, when all of that drama was going on between the family and Prince, this lawyer from Minneapolis represented them, and he spread misinformation and things that was not necessarily true about Prince to people. But the evidence shows that Prince died of an acute fentanyl overdose.
Mm-hmm.
When you and it's only been in print for a short time, and it came out of the Minneapolis TV channel. It was KSTP, and they had it up on their website. And their website, they eventually took that information down because someone leaked to them the amounts of fentanyl that was in Prince's system. And I kept telling people in the community, judging by my knowledge of certain inexplicable events, when you see something like this, somebody's trying to get information out to tell people that this is not what actually happened. He had enough fentanyl in his kidneys and liver that would have been able to kill half of the town that I live in. It would have been able to kill about 30 or 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They
if
found
it metastasized to your liver and kidneys, man, that's
saying
a bit
something.
extreme. That's a bit extreme.
And he would not, if you know, for that level of fentanyl, I believe they said 3 micrograms of fentanyl will kill a human being. He had almost 100 micrograms of fentanyl in his system. And when I found out later that summer, and I want to say it was around August when I found out that there were 2 pill bottles. It was a Bear aspirin bottle, and there was an Aleve bottle that had counterfeit Watson Vicodin tablets. Okay. When you looked at the pills, the DEA discovered that this Watson pill, it was actually the Vicodin tablet was made by a company called Watson. They had stopped making those pills around 2012, 2013. They hadn't been produced anymore. And they found out that these pills were actually counterfeit. They had fentanyl, and then they had another counterfeit heroin opioid, synthetic type of opioid in them that is, if you're looking for it in a regular chemical test, you wouldn't find it. You had to do a special type of test on it. It's a U-4407 or something of that nature. I have to look it up and send it to you, Gavin, because I'm getting old. My mind is slipping. But they found this extra super potent synthetic opioid in it as well. And that also threw my suspicions up. But one pill bottle, I think the Bear bottle had 30 of these tablets in it. It also had real Bear pills in it. The Aleve bottle had about 60 pills, and it had a couple of Aleve tablets in it as well. But we knew that Kirk Johnson, and when they went back to Paisley Park and tore Paisley Park up, they knew Kirk Johnson had prescriptions for fentanyl. I mean, not fentanyl. He had prescriptions for Percocet at the facility. They looked and they found maybe 2 90-day supplies of Percocet, and they found another 60-day supply of Percocet with Kirk Johnson's name on it. Kirk Johnson was a member of Prince's band, and he's also the guy who they considered to be Prince's valet. He was his right-hand man, quote unquote right-hand man, so to speak. during this time period. That still doesn't explain who got him this bottle, these counterfeit Vicodin tablets. So when the long and short of this story is that after extensive worldwide investigation involving several international law enforcement agencies, they have not been able to find the pill press that these pills were made. And how they do that
That's
is that
important.
what they do is when a person overdoses and they found out they got counterfeit pills, they can look and do a forensic analysis of these pills and find this press right, these pills right here were made by these Chinese folk that were making fake medicines and sending them out. These were made in Brazil, or these was made in Beirut, Lebanon, or Israel. There's a lot of stuff coming out of Israel as well, fake. They weren't able to find them. So the mystery continues. And one of my friends that worked on this, who died, we found out that she's passed on. She passed away a couple of months ago. She was a person who kept telling me, she says, Garland, she said, I'm a nurse. And she said, you can't put that much fentanyl in a pill. You can't put that much fentanyl in a pill. Now, if you back up a couple of days, about 4 days, 5 days before Prince died, Prince was in Atlanta, gave two
Right.
outstanding performances.
Right. That was the mic and piano performance that he did. Yeah.
Exactly. And he ODs, supposedly ODs on the plane back home. And they have to give him 2 shots of Narcan to revive him. According to Judith Hill, okay, Judith Hill says she was with Prince the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't see him take anything of that nature. They were eating on the plane, and he gets this look on his face like he was getting ready to say something to her, and he collapses. And she immediately tells them, said, Prince is, collapsed. I can't get him up. They're going back and forth, and they make an emergency landing over Moline, Illinois, which is about, by flight, an hour away from Minneapolis. Now, if he left Atlanta, unless he was in a Concorde, he wouldn't have been able to get that far if he would have took some type of pill, getting on an airplane, and then he collapsed over Moline, Illinois, somewhere in that vicinity, for them to be able to get that plane down and get them to revive him. It's a time frame, because if it's that much fentanyl, it's gonna kill you. But guess what? Here's the curveball. At the autopsy, we find out that Prince had only ingested fentanyl once, which was the last time he lived, which was the night before, or a couple of minutes before he actually passed away. That's the only time that he had ever had fentanyl in his system. They do this by taking samples from your hair, and they can tell by your hair your drug, your toxicology. Okay, so
Yeah.
what happened to him? Who tried to kill Prince, and why was that happening? And it was beautifully done, if I could say that, because you had this drug addicted rock star narrative formed by what happened on the airplane. Prince is
Right.
alarmed by what happened. He immediately says, he didn't stay in the hospital in Moline. He goes back to goes back to Minneapolis. When he goes back to Minneapolis, I got to go to the doctor. Something's wrong with me. He's telling people this. I know a lady who was living in Minneapolis, that knew Prince very well. She was at his Paisley Park party the Sunday night before he died, where he told everybody, said, don't wait a couple of days before you waste any prayers, which was another strange statement that he made. She said he looked good, he sounded good. He said he was feeling a
Well,
little
let me
weak, but
ask you about that, Garland. Let me
okay.
interrupt you and ask you, when he makes a statement like that, do you think he knew something was up for you to make?
He knew something was up. He knew
You think
something
he
was
was going
up
to
for
be
me.
taken out? You think he knew what? Let me be more specific. Do you think he knew he was going to die?
I
You'd
think
be
that
speculating.
he something was going on with Prince. Now, my personal opinion, it was not backed up by the autopsy, supposedly. My personal opinion was the man had this, he had a disease. We speculated on um, leukemia. That hadn't been proven by anybody, but it's just something that
Right. Yeah,
if
well,
you
that's the same
have
thing with the AIDS diagnosis. They were saying he had AIDS, and
right,
Gregory was saying he just
right,
was too. If he had AIDS, he wouldn't have never been able to do two shows in Atlanta.
but he had to me, a lot of people. Oh no, you just To me, Prince hadn't looked right since 2014. To me, okay, this album that you showed here, the new album that's coming out, Welcome to America, that was recorded in 2010. He
Right.
did a thing in 2011 in the a 21 night stand in Inglewood. Uh, that was the last time he was looking healthy. Okay, he didn't look healthy after that. Now, was it speculation that he was using pain medication to continue to perform? That was out there in the community. People dismissed it. But certain people in the Prince community, when they said certain things, I happened to listen. And it was on the website, it was on the Prince.org website, there was a poster there that put some information up, and he said, hey, it was in a gossip column and said Prince's hip problems are inoperable, and he was still going to depend on pain medication to get through performances. And so it was he using pain medication? Yeah, I think he was. I don't have no doubt in my mind that he wasn't using it. But in the in the investigation, in those multiple there were multiple bottles of pills. When you hear that on the news, there were multiple bottles of pills. But you had pills broken into halves. You had pills that was broken into thirds. Thinking about my grandmother, when her arthritic knee kicked up on her, the doctor gave her pain medication. And when she died, I went around her house finding bottles of pills in the medicine cabinets and in the kitchen cabinets. And it was bottles of pills that had plenty of pills left. And they were broken in halves and thirds and fourths. Uh, I saw that if that happened, I saw that with my grandmother. She wasn't drug addicted at all. So something was going on with him. He knew that something was going on with him, saying, I need to go to the hospital. I need to go to the doctor. The last pictures we have of Prince alive is him going into the doctor's office. And
Right.
the doctor did a blood evaluation on him. He did some blood work on him. And see, that's another reason why we know that it was not any fentanyl in his system prior to that. And he did find some pain medication. But the thing that I'm wondering about, and this is where uh, another some mysterious things occurred, is in the investigation that went on with the police department in the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. which figured prominently in George Floyd's case. There were people who were interviewed. It's a lot of interviews that conflict. Okay, you had some people that said, "Yeah, I knew Prince was using. I wasn't gonna be his drug dealer, so I quit." That was a real interesting statement that was made. So then you go into, um, you start listening to what happened in them final hours. Prince supposedly was dropped off at Paisley Park 8 o'clock on April 20th. Okay. They find Prince. Oh, they had to make all these phone calls all night, and they was calling people. And Prince is, in trouble, and we need to do an intervention with him, and we need to find him a doctor, a rehab facility to put him in. And they go looking for Prince the next morning. Prince is dead. Anyone who knew Prince or knew about Prince would tell you that Prince stayed up all night. He was a
Yeah.
night owl.
We talk right because his mind keeps going. He's working on music. A matter of fact, I just saw the 60 Minutes documentary that they did about the Vault and Paisley Park. And Prince was talking to one of his background singers. He would call her at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, "What you doing?" Say,
Yeah.
I
Hey, I
said,
need you over here.
I need you to
It's a hotel. It was a hotel right down the street from Paisley Park that they basically just Prince rented the whole hotel out most of the time, and his proteges, that's where they stayed. So if he needed them, he could call, and they were right down the street. Hey, I got the limo outside. Jump in and come up here. And they knew that. A lot of people got sick of it, but they knew that he has done that his whole career.
yeah.
But nobody knows, when you go talk to these people and you knew Prince was at this state where he was just ingesting pills, and everything he saw, he was swallowing a pill. And you knew this. If you was his friend, or if you were supposed to be working with him, hey boss, I'm gonna stick around and see what you're doing tonight. Are you gonna record anything? He's not gonna send anybody at home at 8 o'clock at night like that. And it's a lot of mysterious things, like the cameras wasn't working in Paisley Park. Uh, the alarm system wasn't working in Paisley Park. They found drugs. They found a bottle of pills in an area of Paisley Park that nobody actually had been in about 6 to 8 months. It's real weird things that was going on. Also, I'm gonna put this out here, and I love her to death, and I don't want to throw. It's a question that she needs to answer. Sheila E. and Kirk Johnson was texting each other around 2 a.m. on the 21st. When they found Prince dead, and the paramedics got there, and they were trying to perform life-saving CPR, trying to get response, the EMT said that rigor had started setting in when they found him
Right.
at 9:30. Okay, rigor has started setting in. Rigor's gonna start setting in right after you dead. Meaning this man's body was stiff. That means that it wasn't completely stiff, it wasn't in full rigor, but he had been dead for about 6 to 7 hours at 9 a.m. That puts that right around 2 a.m. They also said that it was unusually hot in Paisley Park. And when I say unusually hot, they said you could walk in there and it was like 80 degrees. And they said Prince very rarely had that temperature over 70 in that building year round. It's very strange. I don't
When you
let me
say,
also.
I gotta correct. Let me stop you for a second. When you say that Sheila East got an answer for text messages, What's important about a text message, her text messaging Kirk Johnson? What's the relevance to that?
Okay, thank you very much for stopping me there, because I'm on now. You made me have to come up and tell you what happened. Prince and Sheila E. had a falling out. Well, Sheila E. wasn't allowed back in Paisley Park about 2 years before he passed away. Not to say anything that she did, because I don't think she did. Personally, I don't think Sheila E. would hurt anybody. But Sheila and Prince had a falling out. She wasn't allowed back in Paisley Park. Why was this conversation going on at 2 a.m.? And when you look at the time, if he had been dead, if they found him at 7 o'clock at 9:30, and he had rigor setting in, that man had been dead since about 2 o'clock that morning. His clothes was on backwards. Anybody that knows Prince knows that his clothes wouldn't have been on backwards. They found him in the elevator dead. People who knew him said he didn't use that elevator. Okay.
Monel
So
says, "Don't forget the plane Prince was on was owned by Warren Buffett." Yeah,
that plane was owned by Warren Buffett. It surely was.
Dick Gregory talked about that. Yeah,
Yes, Dick Gregory, most definitely. Dick Gregory, man, I love Dick Gregory to death. Dick Gregory,
I knew him.
after Prince died, Dick Gregory, before he died, man, was on fire. And if you go back and listen to some of his last interviews, man, he was on top of it. Anyway, Dick Gregory said he didn't know Prince. He said he never met the man. He said Prince he did an interview, and Prince had been looking at him and listening to what he was saying. But he would tell you straight up that they killed Prince. He knew what he was looking at. Now, going back to what I was telling you about Sheila E. Sheila E., made this video. She decided to come to Minneapolis. She had to find out what was going on. Then when she got to Minneapolis, she started saying, well, he was in a lot of pain. He was jumping off these buildings and stuff, jumping off risers, and he was doing all these acrobatics in the shows. I think she was trying to cover for a friend, because nobody they didn't know at the time what actually happened. They were still thinking he OD'd on Percocet. They didn't know that it was some fentanyl and all of these pills and stuff was in here, and like it was, and this, that, and the other, and then we can't find out where these pills came from. Now, this goes back to and something else here. In the summer of 2016, the news articles was coming out, and just like you were talking about, they were talking about Prince being he was addicted to drugs, he had AIDS. All of these different stories was coming out in the rags. When Michael died, I started following a lot of that about his death, because it was something that didn't smell right with Michael's death either. Okay. But Michael had come out in 93, I believe it was, and said that he had a problem with pills. And that came from when he had
right.
that victory.
Right. That's when Michael, it was a little bit after the Dangerous tour. Actually, it was in 90. I want to say it was in 97, 96, because he passed out. You're talking about Michael Jackson?
Right.
Michael did admit he had a problem with painkillers, and how Elton John and others were trying to help him. That was in
Right.
93. But I remember he passed out back in 95, 96. He was married to Lisa Marie Presley at that time, and he was admitted into the local hospital up in New York. I remember that.
Okay. Michael had the DEA released this, and I kind of thought at the time I heard about it, I was like, man, that's a real shitty thing to do to somebody after they dead. But they released the information on Mike and said Mike had like 1,000 different aliases that he got pills under, which I find to be very suspicious again, because when they released his FBI profile, none of that was in his FBI thing. And I've always thought that they did something to Mike. But
Yeah.
when
Same here.
that same information came out about Prince, the DEA said Prince hadn't had a prescription in his name, and he had one in the last 6 years or something. And that was the one that the doctor prescribed him the night before he died. Now, that's not all that strange. It's not all that uncommon. But again, you a famous rock star. If you were addicted to drugs, you could still get prescription medication if you hadn't had a prescription in the last 6 years. You could get legitimate drugs from
Oh, yeah.
legitimate sources. If you didn't want to go through and get them yourself, you still had the means to go overseas and get drugs legally, go to the doctor and get them prescribed legally overseas. You got people in America that could have gotten them for you. You didn't have to go get counterfeit drugs. You didn't have to do that. So the mystery of these drugs in that bottle, I've asked around, and I was like, okay, somebody, if anybody has this information, how many pills was all the medications in this bottle? These bottles, was all the medication in there counterfeit, or was it just some? When I found out that it was only some that were counterfeit, then I really got suspicious. It wasn't all the drugs counterfeit. It was some. Now, I haven't gotten the number of the some yet. Okay. I don't know if it was 20, if it was 30. I don't know. But the person told me that all the drugs in there was not counterfeit. Now, let's go back to April 16th and compare it to what happened on April 2021. What happened on that plane? If he OD'd, it was a different OD than what happened on April 20, 2021. It was completely different because he did not have fentanyl in his system on April. He's only used fentanyl one time. So that leads me to this other synthetic opioid, this U4470 synthetic opioid. Did that cause the OD on the 16th? I don't know. We don't know. And they
Well,
said it. Go ahead.
let me make this point too. When you're mentioning all of that, remember the actor Philip Sophomore Hoffman, I think his
Yes.
name. All right, he died of a drug overdose,
Mm-hmm.
as did Heath Ledger. They actually investigated and I believe arrested the person that gave Philip Sophomore Hoffman those drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with John Belushi, the woman who gave him the hot needle, the hot ball is what they call it, a high ball that
Mm-hmm.
she injected it and that killed him. She was
Right.
proven for that. So they do investigate those things, and to this day, they don't know exactly what happened.
Exactly. Exactly. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on.
Okay. I didn't I had somebody that was trying to reach me. I had to get off. But see what's going on here. Okay. They it's not uncommon, but it's fishy. Um when I heard about the I don't know if you're familiar with this fellow from Russia that Putin tried to poison,
Yeah, I've heard about that.
and he's back in Russia right now. This guy somehow or another called the people who actually did the hit, and he pretended like he was someone else. They believed it, and they told how they put the poison, where they put the poison to kill him. And I started thinking about it. It's in a place that can easily get into your bloodstream very quickly, and it can get into your bloodstream very quickly, and it can mess you up. And they put it in his underwear, in the seam of his underwear at the legs, and it got into his system very quickly and surreptitiously. And it just struck a nerve with me. Maybe somebody could have put enough fentanyl in that area to where when he made contact with his leg, and that's a way it could have got into his liver and his kidneys that quick, without it looking like it was I swallowed the pills and tried to kill myself. Now that's a speculation on my behalf, okay? But it's really, really, really crazy. I haven't come up with any more answers. I do know that in the last 5 years, they have made an extreme amount of money on Prince, and whatever they're making off of Prince right now, his family will never get a dime of it. His family will get his estate, the monies from his estate as it was when he died. I do know that they are going to the family is a mess.
Right.
Prince
They're still
Prince's
tied up in litigation.
right, Prince's siblings, he had two sets of brothers and sisters. He had a set with his daddy. His daddy had a group of kids by another woman, which was his daddy's first wife. Then Prince's daddy married his mama, and the mama had a brother from another relationship. Had a child in another relationship that was older than Prince. Then it was Prince and Tyka, which is they full-blooded brother and sister. Then Prince's mama married another man. She married a man she had the first baby by, and she married this dude, and he is another child that's probably about, I guess he's probably about 7 years older than I am. And it's a mess. It's a huge mess, and he didn't have anything to do with his family at all. I think they say he finally started letting his sister come around, and his sister was patrolling the internet for counterfeit bootlegs and stuff that was popping up on various sites. His sister was the one who was looking for stuff that was popping up on the internet and making them take it down and stuff. But I think they made a lot of money off him. They're going to continue to make a lot of money off of him. I buy it. A lot of other Prince fans, it was like, well, I'm not going to buy this, but I'm going to still listen to the music because I still love the music, and it's still jumping. The Sign of the Times Super Deluxe edition that came out in September last year, it was fabulous. I'm talking about it was off the chain. I'm still jamming to that thing, and it had it had 5 or 6 hours worth of music on it. You can't sit down and listen to it all at one time. And so 1999, the Super Deluxe Edition, same way. The Purple Rain Super Deluxe Edition, and we're talking about Super Deluxe edition, the signed Super Deluxe edition was like $200. It wasn't cheap. So they sold, and it sold out. The first pressing sold out, and they sold out within 30 minutes. It wasn't like it sold out in over a long period of time. They sold out completely and then had to start remaking this stuff. So this thing that's coming out now with the promotion that they're doing with it, and you saw it on 60 Minutes. And matter of fact, Mr. Morris, I met Morris. Morris is a pretty cool guy. I really like him. He, I think they did right by him on it. I think they did right by Prince with what they're trying to do, and I'm glad to see Welcome to America come out.
Right. That 60 Minutes interview is available, actually. It was interesting to note all the stuff that they did about the new album. So about the Welcome to America album, I don't want to, I could play it, but I probably would have to mute
Right,
the volume because
right,
the copyright claim on me. I'm talking about the 60 Minutes stuff.
right.
But yeah, but this was from 60 Minutes. I guess I might be able to play a little snippet of it, but this is Morris Hayes.
60 Minutes Overtime.
Morris Hayes was one of Prince's longtime friends, his keyboardist, his
So
music director.
Morris.
I remember one record we did just happened because I was standing in the sound stage, and he walked in the middle
Garland,
of
you
the
there?
and the drummer just
Yes, I'm still here.
throw each other off, and he said, "What's happening?"
Yeah, I met Morris. I met Morris in 99 and 2000. I can't remember. I think it was in 2000 when he came
He
to
goes
that
to the phone
concert.
at the back of the wall, calls the engineers and said, "Put some tape up in Studio A," and have the text move all of it.
So this is Prince's studio.
Just like that. And we did 8 songs in one day. And then that record is Exodus.
What you realize is this is someone who is absolutely devoted to his craft, to his talent, to his musicianship. And it was experimental. It was fun. It happened at all hours of the night. But this guy just never stopped creating music. What do you remember most about the Welcome to America?
That's one of his singers. I don't know her name.
Wow. I remember
that's Shelby J.
recording songs
Shelby J. Okay,
for the Welcome
Shelby
to America.
J. Right.
Shelby J was a longtime vocalist who sang with Prince.
We had been recording all of this material, and then we were going to do the tour, and we did a photo shoot.
So you were pleased with the 60 Minutes?
When I looked at the songs we were going to be doing for the tour, none of the songs we had recorded were on that set list. Like, none of them.
You have some sympathy for the bandmates who have worked so hard. They're ready to have this music go out in the public domain, and Prince decides, the time's not right. Can you play another song for us?
I sure can.
When we were at Paisley Park.
What's that?
One of the things, the one thing I love the 60 Minutes piece, but the thing that's really sad here is that they didn't give him they didn't give Prince the props that they should have gave him while he was living. You never saw Prince get that type of promotion with even with everything from 87 on up. The only thing that really came through that they really pushed like that was Diamonds and Pearls, and maybe even Batman. But they never gave Prince the props like he should have got. Oh, he was a weird dude. He was nasty,
Mm-hmm.
It was always something. He was never promoted like Michael Jackson was. Now, that being said, Mike had one of the greatest promotion teams ever.
Yeah, well, what I was gonna say about that, Mike had Mike was the man. Mike had he had Quincy Jones as his producer. He had CBS Records. Walter Yetnikoff,
Right.
who was able to get Michael Jackson onto MTV when they did not allow, and you remember, blacks
Yes.
on MTV at that point. They had a color bar. So, and he actually threatened to pull all of his white records, all of his white artists, excuse me, like Barbara Streisand and I believe who was another one that was on it. She was threatening to pull basically all of their white acts uh, that were popular at that time. That was half of MTV's rotation. So they got rid of them. So they relented. I think Olivia Newton-John was one of them as well. Maybe it may have been, but all of the white acts were going to leave. Was going to pull them unless you put Michael Jackson's Billie Jean on. So that's what they did. Prince at that time too was catching on. He was on a hot streak. I don't think he ever cooled off.
Well, he had Little Red Corvette. I mean, that's when Michael became
1999.
Yeah. When Michael became an international superstar or became supernova with Thriller, that's when Prince actually became he became a national superstar with reaching out across the pond to England and to Europe a little bit. You know, that's when he hit, was with 1999. And I remember, you guys are young bucks, y'all don't remember this, but the summer of 1983, when Michael hit, with Thriller, and that was so incredible, and then right on the heels of that, because Michael was coming out in the spring, early summer, and at the same time, Little Red Corvette dropped. And it's like, oh man, that's Prince. Now, see, I knew who Prince was from my sister, but I also knew Mike because of my sister. My sister was a huge Michael Jackson fan. I'm talking about with Little Mike, when Mike was with the Jackson 5. And the Jackson 5, if you were black and you were growing up in the 70s, the J5 was your heroes.
Right.
And, we all love those cats, man. I told TJ Jackson, when I met TJ, I told him, I said, you don't really realize, your family, how your family influenced Black America in a positive manner. Those dudes was always sharp. And if you really talk to Prince would never admit it. But Prince, they looked up to he looked up to the J5. He wanted to get into the business because of the J5. Everybody wanted to get into the business because of them.
Most definitely.
So, he's, this dude, man, is, I don't ever want to disparage Mike, man, because I realized, and this goes back to Prince too, when, they came up with some stupid stuff, and I was young and I'm stupid and I didn't know how they did Black people, meaning they're not going to let you get away clean. And it goes back to what your boy said. What's the comedian's name?
Eddie Griffin.
Eddie Griffin. He said they weren't going to let you get out of this thing clean. If you go back to the COINTELPRO document from March 3rd, 1968, when it talks about the prevent the rise of the Black Messiah, they're not going to let you have a voice. And in this century, the 21st century especially, anybody that's come out and had a way of reaching Black America in a positive manner, they have struck them down. Mike is dead, Prince is dead, Bill Cosby's in jail. Now you think about that for a minute. The people who could actually reach out and get people. Tupac dead, Biggie dead,
Easy.
It didn't make no difference whether or not you were on good or bad, so to speak, whether or not you had a positive or a negative message. You're not going to be able to go out and command people. They're going to give you a limited voice. And when you get to a certain point where you start, using your influence to move black people, they're going to cut you off. And when Prince came back, Prince has always been political, man. And I think that's one of the reasons why you didn't really hear a whole lot about Prince, because Prince in Controversy album, which goes all the way back to 1981, Prince had a song on there called Ronnie Talk to Russia. Ronnie Talk to Russia Before It's Too Late. He had another song on there called Anti-Christian, which was talking about some real controversial issues. And I think that may have been one reason, they tried to suppress him until he just blew up and they couldn't suppress him. And he started to tone that down in order to get the prestige and get the fame. But then soon as 1987 rolls around, he hits out with Sign of the Times and starts talking about Star Wars and starts talking about AIDS and, what's going on in the world and so forth and so on. Well, he started preaching this message and they started toning him down. Okay. But when he came back in 2004, he had a song called Cinnamon Girl, which was actually a single release. And it was talking about, he said 911 was
an inside job, something like that.
He said, when she got accused
behind 9/11, yeah,
right. And when he started, and then dear Mr. Man, we don't understand why the poor people keep struggling. You could give a helping hand. And then the final thing, and I'm gonna tell you something, when I heard the song, I got a chill down my back, was Baltimore. And when he did that, I said, oh, Prince, man, they're gonna come get you. They're gonna come get you behind that. And true enough, they did come and get it. I got worried. Prince was doing, Prince was touring and making money. Prince was hanging out with some folks that was some Russians that were supposedly in the music business and right. singing Russian billionaires going to do New Year's Eve parties and stuff for them, and going to the Clintons' White House. I mean, not the Clinton, but the Obama White House. Not to say Obama was doing anything, but it's you moving in circles. These people are not your friend, and they will get you if they think you're gonna get out of line. And I just thought, when I look back on everything, they didn't start messing with Michael until We Are the World. And when they saw Mike had that type of power, We Are the World, that's when they started messing with him. That's when he got to be crazy.
Well, it really started with in truthfulness, it really started with the purchase of the Beatles catalog.
Oh yeah. That's really, it really did,
They did not like that at all. And that's when that whole thing started. And then on top of that, they got rid of, when he purchased that catalog, then he merges in 95, he merged with Sony. The Sony ATV is what it became. They didn't like that. The whole Wacko Jacko thing really started when all of that was going on. So
right.
People can pay very close attention to all of the timeline when all of this stuff started. But yeah, they did not like that. They did not like that at all.
No, they really didn't like all of that. And the music industry is a business. Somebody I had on
It's like what they did with Sam Cooke when Sam Cooke wanted to own his own publishing and control his music, and he dies under mysterious
Yeah.
circumstances. I had on Al Blanier, who is a journalist. He's a journalist for over 25 years. He's done a lot of investigating into celebrity deaths and so forth, like Sam Cooke and a couple of other artists. And, he made this point. He said that the music industry uh, is worse compared to how the mafia ran Las
Hmm.
Vegas. He said the mafia
Hmm.
running Las Vegas was much more humane.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy. That's a good analogy.
The mafia controlled music too. I mean, that's because that's a license to print money.
Right. It's a way to clean up a lot of money, and it's you know, it I get emotional because the music industry now, you know, Mike, Prince, even Rick James, they never told me to disrespect a woman.
Yes,
They might have told me to get busy with one of them, but they weren't talking about disrespecting women. Our music.
Yeah, hold on a second. Garland, yeah, DeAndre, he did. He actually was that his music was Elvis's music was in that catalog. Some of his songs, as well as Sly and the Family Stone, Nat King Cole, the Cornelius Brothers and Sister Rose. A bunch
Right.
of people were in that catalog. And when he merged it with Sony, he also acquired other artists like Beyonce, Babyface, Jay,
Hmm.
Bruce Springsteen, Michael owned part of, Michael owned Santa Claus is Coming to Town in the Christmas song.
Right.
So just those two songs alone, do you know how often those are played at Christmas time? If you play
Yes.
Springsteen's version or Nat King Cole's version around the world,
Yes.
Michael is getting a check. Now of course, I don't think he owned all of it outright, but he owned the publishing to it and
Right.
controlled part of it. So it was a license to print money. So when they tell you that he didn't own this and he was broke, that's a bunch of bullshit. But
Yeah.
go
Most
ahead.
definitely.
Yeah, but and when he married Lisa Marie Presley, when this is something you got to keep in mind too, Elvis's family did not like that at all.
Hmm.
Uh, Priscilla was on Oprah, and when they talked about her getting married, when she found out about it, she called her daughter immediately saying, "Are you effing crazy?" She's like, "What's wrong
Right.
with you?" Well, she didn't like that at all, and I think they thought that he was marrying her to get part of Elvis's music, and I'm pretty sure this is just me personally. I don't think they would like the fact that she had gotten pregnant by him
Hmm.
and
Oh
figure
no.
out why.
Oh no. It was
Although
man and
I heard Elvis, I mean, I've heard Elvis has a black daughter nobody talks about. I've heard that.
well, it wouldn't shock me. Elvis was a bad dude. It wouldn't shock me because you do know that Whitney Houston's mother used to sing for him. So he had black women around him, and he was from Memphis. I mean, he was from that area down there. Elvis, when people talk about Elvis, people really don't know Elvis was lower than white trash in Tupelo, Mississippi. Where he came from in Tupelo, he was lower than white trash. And that's the reason why the family actually had a chance to move. The daddy moved them to Memphis. Uh, Memphis, if you don't know anything about Memphis, Memphis is a very unusual place. Memphis is in Tennessee, but if you don't know anything about Tennessee, you don't know that Tennessee has 3 grand divisions, and all the grand divisions are like 3 different states. So Memphis is a world different than Tennessee. Okay, because Tennessee in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, it's like night and day. It's 2 different places.
Mm-hmm.
Back to in Memphis. I love Memphis. I love Memphis, but Memphis and Nashville, and I love Nashville too. Memphis is most definitely a chocolate city. Nashville was it was more of an intellectual black city, uh, a very moderate city. It's changing. Um, Tennessee has changed. It's been a lot of people from the Midwest to move into Middle Tennessee, especially, and it's changed the political structure. It's more ultra rabid, right wing folk from the Midwest here, especially from Indiana and from Michigan, and people. The new thing now where I live is people moving here from California who want to move here and away from that damn liberal uh, governor that they have. This is quote unquote from these people, the damn liberal. Um,
Gavin Newsom.
yeah, the damn liberal governor that's destroyed our state is what they say.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, I appreciate you doing this live stream with me, man. We're gonna wrap it up in a minute, but a lot is going on. If you have any updates about Prince, please let us know. Uh, I've asked you this before. You said people don't really want to talk about it, but hopefully, let me just actually find it. Do you think there would be, if what you're saying is true, somebody that will come forward in regards to his death if they had information?
I believe that it's possible, but
Because they're coming, I don't know what the status of it is now, but James Brown's death is even under investigation, or was, by the DA out in Atlanta.
right.
Because they're talking about how James Brown, the doctor, signed an affidavit saying that he believed James Brown was poisoned, that he didn't die the way uh, it was believed.
Well, I'm going to say, I don't know a lot about James. James was up there. Um, Not to discredit James Brown in any shape, form, or fashion, but we don't know. It's a lot of we don't know here. Um, but going back to Prince, I've 5 years now, hadn't heard anything new. It's been about 3 years since the last time I got any real new information. And I'm seriously doubting that you will hear something. Even the people who were trying to discredit him for the last couple of years, you're not even hearing them even talk about it anymore. It used to be a time around this time something scurrilous would come out about his death, and you hadn't heard it so far. So, I don't think that anybody's going to come forward, because it's really only 2 or 3 people to even know anything about what actually happened. But I seriously believe it. I believe it until Jesus tells me different. That the man was murdered, they killed him, and they are making extremes amount of money on him and his death than they did while he was living.
All right. Well, look, before you go, we got some questions from the crowd. First off, people, I need y'all to drop a Cash App donation in the Cash App, please, to continue these shows like this. If you can, DeAndre says about the claim why mainstream media that Prince didn't have a will. Well,
Oh,
that might be something you could answer
that's
quickly.
a real good question. Prince had a will, but nobody can find it. Um, when you sign with ASCAP, Okay. You know who ASCAP is, right?
Yeah, I'm signed with them.
Okay, you would ASCAP. So did you have to list a beneficiary?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
That's not the
If
same
you
as a will, though.
It's not the same as a will, but you list, it's people listed as beneficiaries in certain things. They can't find anything on Prince. So I heard rumors. It's been a lot of rumors that he had a will. Um, Nobody knows now. They haven't found anything legally. So we're where we are right now, which is they're splitting the estate up, and I think they did a pretty thorough job with that. And I don't think you're gonna find anything other than what's been discovered already.
All right.
That it?
Yeah, I think that's it. That his son died. People were talking about his son. Yeah, his son, boy Gregory.
Yes.
He had Pfizer syndrome, which means his skull was deformed.
Yes.
And that was with his wife Mate. Yeah, he didn't survive that long.
They actually had 2 children that didn't survive. She got pregnant again, and child didn't survive. And it's really a sad situation because Prince was born with some birth defects as well, and that's the reason why he was a dwarf. Or he didn't grow any bigger than what he did. So, that's sad that he was left without a legacy. However, I'm glad. Well, I shouldn't say that I'm glad. He was in a bad situation with Maite, and I think he got trapped into that situation, so to speak, and wound up marrying that girl. But he was trying to be faithful to her, but that whole situation didn't work out at all. And her mother and her sisters, man, were dangerous.
Her mother and sister were what?
Dangerous, as far as they
Yeah,
were gold diggers. They were gold diggers.
Yeah, I remember I was watching the I think it was Hollywood X's where Mateo was a star on that show, and her mother was dissing Prince.
Right. Yeah, she first of all, she was too young to be messing with him anyway, but they got him in, and I think she lied and said she was pregnant and she wasn't. And I think that's what happened, and she quote unquote lost the baby, and I think all of that went through. But it's a big mess with that, and in a way I'm kind of halfway glad he didn't have any children by her, because it would have been ridiculous. She would have been, had him wide open. And she was selling stuff of his on eBay.
Yeah.
She sold a lot of his stuff on eBay, man. She's a scandalous chick. Now she's fine. She's beautiful.
Yeah, she's good. She was actually dating the boy that I think Wade Robinson. He briefly dated him.
Yes.
So she was sleeping with him, and this is Wade Robinson, of course, is the one who has accused Mike of molestation. All BS. His whole story fell apart. But yeah, what was interesting is that they were dating, and what's funny about that too is that relationship Wade Robinson had with Brandy Jackson, which was Mike's niece, he cheated on her with Britney Spears. So I gotta say allegedly because of legal reasons, but I mean it's common knowledge.
Right. I remember hearing that on Cole Show.
Yeah, her brother has even said that. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. Anyway, I'm getting looked at side eye, so I think I'm gonna go in the house.
All right, man. Well, Garland, thank you for bringing your knowledge on this, man. It's hard to believe. Let me just say my thoughts on it. I didn't tell everybody what I was doing, but 5 years ago when Prince died, I was on my way, I believe, to go see a client. I remember it was yesterday. I was driving there and I got an alert on my phone. I look at my phone and I see a Facebook post that says Prince had died. And I didn't believe it. My heart dropped. But uh, when I got home and when I got to the radio, all they were doing was playing Prince's music. And on top of that, if you went on MTV just to see what the news was, MTV suspended their entire programming and started playing music videos again.
Wow.
Played, they played all Prince all, I think it was all week. It was just 24/7 of Prince. And he had that library. He was able to do that. Uh, you know, just sort of like what they did with Mike. When Mike died,
Right.
everybody stopped what they were doing. Everybody, they just started playing all the music, pulling out the old records. My father, of course, is a huge Prince fan.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
I'm, I'm grateful looking back at it. I had a chance to see Prince live when he performed at Essence Fest in 2014. I said, there's no way I'm going to miss this bar exam or not. I was studying for the bar and
Hmm.
I needed a day for myself. So I went with my parents and drove from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. We were sitting up in the nosebleed section, and I had to drag them to come because originally it was I guess, an issue with money. No, we can't do it. I said, look, when can you ever say you see? When you think you'll ever get to see Prince again?
Right.
It's a once in a lifetime thing. So I said, okay, let's do it. And I'm grateful I did it. We enjoyed ourselves. He put on a performance the whole night. Even when the other artists were out, he was playing guitar with them. When he came out, people didn't see him. When they put the spotlight on him, the whole stadium, the whole Superdome went nuts. That's how much of an impact he had. So Prince is well missed. It's been 5 years since his passing. We wish that he were here. I wish he was here because uh, I'd have a he had a wealth of information. He left a legacy really for
Hmm.
fans to listen to his music. Uh, the messages in his music, which were just as powerful. And
Right.
he set a gold standard for how artists are supposed to be, how songwriters are supposed to write, how you're supposed to work on your craft. He lived and breathed this business. So
Hmm.
shout out to him, shout out to his family, and shout out to everybody who has been watching the last hour and 42 minutes. Please, man, I ask that you contribute to the chat. Of course, this was our guest, Mr. Garland Brown. Thank you, Garland. Garland, do you have anywhere people may want to reach you if you want?
They can meet me. They can reach me on Facebook. If they're not friends with me, they can send me a message, and if they have any questions, they can just ask me some questions. Then I'll answer them. Um, you may not be able to get to me directly, but message me on Facebook, and I'll get it.
All right. Okay, guys, y'all heard it from our brother, Mr. Garland Brown. This has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're blessed and doing safe. Guys, y'all be safe and out there right now. I know a lot of people are excited about this conviction, but the battle is not over with yet. And
No.
I just want people to realize that more of this, there's more on the way to come with this thing. Uh, and I say that for a reason. It's not what you guys, a lot of people think once a conviction is done that's it, but there's a sentencing phase we got to deal with as well, and just be mindful of that. But I've enjoyed talking to our friend and brother Garland Brown about the Purple One, the artist formerly known and the artist that is Prince, and you guys, if y'all want, just play or watch Purple Rain tonight because I know I'm going to be doing that this week. So, uh, We got someone else. Thank you, Rosalind, for tuning in. Again, I ask you all, please donate to the Cash App, hit the like, share, subscribe. We got to get the likes up. We got to get the shares up. More people to subscribe to this channel. This has been another edition of Gavin Reshaw Presents here on channel GBoo2786, on Gavin Reshaw on Facebook and on YouTube, and on Periscope at Gavin Rich 2786. Brother Garland, thank you so much. It's time for me to get some gumbo. What's up, Derek Bailey? Butterfly 70, shout out to you. DeAndre, Killer Sai, all of you guys. Makia is a big Prince fan.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Judah Queen. All right, guys. CH464. What's up, brother? And Steve Mack. I see you, my brother. And Donald Washington, all of y'all. So, all right, guys. Trev. Yeah, most sundown towns are in the Midwest. That is correct. Yeah, that's exactly, and that's kind of what you had with that situation in South Carolina too. It looks like with that sergeant, that drill sergeant that was attacking that kid. But Purple Forever, B1 Purple Forever. I like that. All right, guys, time for me to go get some grub. I'm holla. Peace.